Good morning, everyone. This is the second video in the series of lectures on electrostatics. This is the first chapter of electrostatics, and I am Tapash Deb, PGD Physics from Kendriya Vidyalaya Barpeta. As you all know, our schools are closed due to lockdown, so we have come up with these video lectures to help you study at home. In the last class, we have discussed about some similarities between electrostatic force and gravitational force. So some major similarities between one of the major similarities between electrostatic force and gravitational force is that both these forces have an inverse square dependence. Both these forces have an inverse square dependence. Electrostatic force and gravitational force. Both these forces have an inverse square dependence. Now, what does it mean, inverse square dependence? That means both these forces are proportional to, that means F is proportional to 1 by R square. This is what is meant by inverse square dependence. The force decreases inversely as the square of distance. One of the major difference between gravitational force and electrostatic force is that gravitational force is independent. It is independent of medium. Okay, it does not depend upon medium. While electrostatic force depends heavily on medium. Electrostatic force depends heavily on medium. So there is a great dependence on medium. This point you take note. Electrostatic force depends heavily on medium. This is important because there is a factor known as permittivity, which will be denoted by epsilon naught, and this will be used to explain the dependence of magnitude of electrostatic force on the medium. Next, we discuss about charges. What is charging by friction, and types of charges were positive charges and negative charges. All of you know this. Positive charge means the body will have deficit of electrons, and negative charge means there will be an deficit of electrons. Positive charge means you will have an deficit of electrons, and negative charge means there will be an excess of electrons. Positive means deficit, okay, less number of electrons, deficit of electrons, and negative means there is an excess of electrons. Excess electrons are there. So let us discuss today how bodies are charged. There are two basic ways generally, and these are charging by friction and charging by induction. So let us first discuss what is charging by friction. All of you know this, you have this experience. If you take a plastic scale and rub it against dry hair, then you will see that the scale becomes charged enough to attract small bits of paper. This also happens when you run your comb through dry hair, and you will see that the comb starts attracting hairs. That means hairs get pulled towards the comb if you bring the comb close to the hair. Try this at home, you will see that effect. So these are some common examples by charging by friction. It is also seen silk cloth also has a very good effect. When you wear silk cloths, and when you will see that the silk gets charged sometimes. That means the cloth gets charged, and some sparkles are also seen sometimes in the dark. Let us discuss one example. Suppose you have a rod made of glass, and use a silk cloth to rub against it. So when you use silk to rub against glass, after some time you will see that glass becomes positively charged and silk becomes negatively charged. But how will you know it? For that you need two glass rods. You will need two glass rods and rub them both with silk cloth. You should be careful here so that the charges do not leak to the earth through your body. Now if the two glass rods are brought close to each other, there will be repulsion between them. Repulsion. Why repulsion? Because when you make friction between a glass rod and a silk cloth, both the glass rods becomes positively charged if done carefully. Since positive and positive are like charges, they will experience repulsion. So this is a test that you can do to check that the rod has been charged. Okay, now the question is why we have selected glass and silk and not something else. Now, to answer this question, you have to understand that there exists certain combination of materials which on friction becomes charged. This depends on the work function of the substances. That means the amount of energy necessary to liberate electrons from the surface. So you cannot just select any two materials and have this effect. There is a proper combination here. Next, very important method of charging a body is induction. Okay. So induction is the process by which there is charging of a body. But what is important here is that there is no contact between the two bodies while charging. This point is a major difference between charging by friction and charging by induction. Now, how does it work? Suppose this is a sphere. You can see that it is a sphere. And what type of sphere is it? It's a metallic sphere. Okay, remember this is a metallic sphere. The sphere is placed on a insulating stand. The sphere is placed on an insulating stand. What type of stand? Insulating stand. Okay. So basically the stand is made up of an insulator. And what type of sphere is that? That sphere is metallic. It's made of some kind of metal. It's metallic in nature. Now, what you do, take a glass rod or any charged body. Okay, this has to be charged from some other source. This is already charged. Remember this. This is already charged. This rod. Okay, it's a rod. It may be metallic, may not be metallic. Bring this rod close to the sphere. Close to the sphere, but do not make any contact here. I repeat, there should not be any contact. Now, since this is a metal surface, it will have free electrons. Okay, the electrons will experience the positive charge close by. And since this is positive charge, electrons are negative charge, they will be attracted towards each other. And the electrons, free electrons will concentrate on this side of the sphere. So since negative charges have concentrated on the right side of the sphere, this side will become positive. So there is a division of charges within the sphere. One side is positive, one side is negative. Due to the presence of this rod. This is important, due to the presence of this rod. Now, still the net charge on the sphere is 0. Now what you do? Connect this side of the sphere to the earth. Okay, that means you just take a wire and connect it to the ground. This process is known as grounding. What is grounding? Grounding is the process of sharing charges with the earth, because earth acts as a large reservoir of charges. So since this side is positive, electrons from the earth will neutralize this side of the charge. This side will be neutralized. Now let me show this. Since this side will be neutralized, what will happen? The sphere will be left with only negative charges. Once you remove this rod away from the sphere, I repeat, once you remove this rod away from the sphere, okay, then what will happen? And remove this grounding also. Now what will happen? After that, these negative charges that were left on the sphere will spread over the sphere. They will spread evenly over the sphere. Okay, so we will be left with only a sphere that is negatively charged. So this is one of the process of charging by induction. So how can we define charging by induction? Let us define it in a simple way. The phenomenon of charging an uncharged conducting body by bringing a charged body near it without making a direct contact between the two bodies is called charging by induction. Okay, the phenomenon of charging an uncharged conducting body by bringing a charged body near it without making a direct contact between the two bodies is called charging by induction. So let us recall the important points for today. Electrostatic force and gravitational force both have inverse square dependence. Gravitational force is independent of medium, but electrostatic force depends on medium. Like charges repel, and unlike charges attract each other. The strength of or the magnitude of electrostatic force depends on medium. Then we discussed two ways of charging a body: friction and induction. Friction is the process in which a body is charged by the transfer of electrons. Friction is the process in which the body is charged by transfer of electrons. Okay, and there is actual contact. But in case of induction, there is no physical contact between the two bodies. So there is no physical contact. Remember this point. There is no physical contact between the two bodies while charging by induction. Also, electrons do not cross over from one body to another. So based on this, there are some questions for today. Now you see the first question. If a body is said to be neutral, does it mean that it has no charge at all? Think about this. If somebody is saying a body is neutral, does it mean that it has no charge at all? That means, can it have positive and negative charges by somehow? Second question, is there a transfer of mass when a body is charged by friction? So when you charge a body by friction, is there any transfer of mass? Think about this. Next, what is grounding? What do you mean by grounding? Thank you for being with me. In the next video lecture, we will discuss a device known as electroscope, which is used to detect as well as measure charge. Electroscope, or more appropriately, gold leaf electroscope. Then we will go into our discussion of permittivity and then into Coulomb's law. Thank you for listening.